Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Lee Pritchard. This evening, we warmly welcome Captain Hiromi Himano and the accompanying delegation from the Japan Joint Staff Office, and members of the United States Air Force Band of the Pacific Asia. We welcome veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of St Michael's College, Caboolture, Queensland. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières in France in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Norman Joseph Veal. Norman Veal was born on the 31st of January 1896 in Newport, Victoria, the elder of two sons born to James Bowden Veal, a health inspector, and his wife Florence. Norm received his education at Long Gully State School and later at Bendigo High School, where he was in the cadets program. After his schooling, Norm studied at a local business college and he joined the local militia, where he was known as a crack shot, winning a medal in 1910. At the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, Norm was working at the Beehive Drapery Emporium in Bendigo. Norman Veal enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 23rd of February 1915. He was assigned to the 5th Reinforcements of the 14th Battalion with the rank of private and began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service soon after, departing Melbourne on the 17th of April 1915 on board the troop ship Hororata. After several weeks at sea, Private Veal joined his comrades on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Reaching the front lines shortly after the landing, Veal spent a few weeks with the rest of his battalion establishing and defending the Anzac beachhead. During this time, he and his comrades battled with heat, flies, disease, and the ever-present threat of Turkish snipers and raids. In August 1915, the Allies began a series of attacks along the peninsula aimed at breaking the stalemate which had set in soon after the landing in April. Veal's 14th Battalion was drawn into the fighting and tasked with taking Hill 971, the highest point of Sari Bear Ridge. The Allies hoped that seizing the high ground would allow them to drive across the peninsula and capture the strategic forts which guarded the Dardanelles. They made their way towards their objective on the 7th of August, planning to attack the following morning. As they prepared their positions, they came under fire from enemy machine guns and rifles, which caused several casualties. Among them was Private Norm Veal, who was hit in the torso and died soon after. The battalion's chaplain, Captain Andrew Gillison, wrote to Veal's father and said, "I was at his side just after he was wounded and until he passed away, and I write to express the sympathy of the officers and men of the battalion in the sorrow which has come to you and your family. At about 8 a.m, your son received a bullet wound in the body which very quickly proved fatal. When I saw that there was no hope of recovery, I asked him if he had any message to send home, and his answer was, 'Love to my father and mother.' He had the real soldier's spirit and died a soldier's death. It is not for him we sorrow, so much as for his loved ones at home, who have made the supreme sacrifice. Our boys have proved their devotion and courage, and we are proud of them, whether dead or living." Veal's final resting place was never located. Today, he is commemorated on the Lone Pine Memorial among almost 5,000 others who have no known grave. Private Norm Veal was just 19 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Norman Joseph Veal, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.